We begin today in the Mishnah on the bottom of Daf Yud Ches Amud Beis. Zok the Heilige Mishnah. Ein kaisvin shtori chayv b'mayit. You don't write that as documents for loans in cholamayit. V'meina maminoi, if the lender does not trust the borrower, unless he's going to write a document that he owes him the money, or he doesn't have what to eat. So Rashi says, and we had this in the Gemara before, it refers to the scribe that's writing the document, that he does this as a job, and he doesn't have what to eat, so therefore he's writing this. So then you're allowed to write it in cholamayid. This is based on everything we learned before regarding cholamayid, that any work that you do that's a davara of it, and you need the money, or that you need the money now for cholamayid, so then you're allowed to write it. Ein kaisvin sfarim, you don't write a sefer Torah in cholamayid, or tefillin, or mezuzahs b'mayid. Ve'ei magiin ois achas, you're not allowed to also go and check over to see that it's written kosher, afilu b'sefer Ezra. Not even in the Sefer of Ezra, which means that Rashi says the Sefer Torah of Ezra. That's how Rashi teaches this. And then Rashi says, Ezra, is a Sefer Torah from Ezra. Okay. Even the Sefer Torah from Ezra. So in other words, this is written, and it's written perfectly. So you might think that this is a Sefer Torah that you're not really, you don't have to correct it. Nevertheless, you're not allowed to be Magia this on Cholamayit. Rabbi Yehuda says, "Kaisev Adam tefillin umezuzas la'atzmai." You are allowed to write tefillin and mezuzas for yourself. In other words, if you're doing this to sell, so in cholamayid you're not allowed to write to sell tefillin and mezuzas. But if you're writing the tefillin and mezuzas for yourself, you're allowed to write it. And also, v'toiveh, you could spin the threads that you need for the tzitzis al yereichoi, but you do it with a shinui. You put it on your thighs, the tcheles that you need for the tzitzisai, for the tzitzis. You're not allowed to do it in the regular way that you would do, the way that you would usually do it, but you can do it with a shinui to prepare the tzitzis. So the Gemara Tana Rabbanan and Abraisa, we learned actually a few opinions about this halacha of writing sefer Torah, tefillin, and so on cholamayit. And we learned in the Abraisa, kaisev adam tefillin umezuzas la'atzmai. You're allowed to write tefillin and mezuzas for yourself, not for selling it. Exactly like it said in our Mishnah. And you could prepare the threads for the tzitzis, doing it with a shinui, you put it on your thighs instead of the way you would usually do it. You could also write tefillin or mezuzahs for someone else, but if you're just writing it for him as a favor, you're not selling it to him. This is Rab Meir's opinion. Rabbi Yehuda says, what you could do is, you write it for yourself. While you're writing it, you're saying, I'm writing this for myself. I need this tefillin and mezuzahs. And now once you have it available, so then you play a trick and you sell that to someone else. And then you go ahead and you write again for yourself because you say, look, I don't have anymore. I already sold it to the other person. This is the concept of harama. There's a lot of different situations where the isser is a lighter isser, and Chazal allow you to do it in the oifen of harama. So over here, you're writing it for yourself. And then afterwards, you go and you sell it to the other person. Rabbi Yosi says, Kaisev or Meiche, Kedarka, you can write it, you can sell it normally, even a chalamayid, Kedei Parnasasai, for what you need for your Parnasa. So Taisus over here says, what does Kedei Parnasasai mean? Does Kedei Parnasasai mean what a person needs pasha to eat, to have food to eat for Yantif, for chalamayid? That everybody would agree. And you're not allowed to do any business in chalamayid if you pasha need the money for food. But Kedei Parnasasa, in Rabbi Yosi's opinion, means even if you don't need the money for food, just for Parnasa, you're still allowed to do this type of work of writing safras on Chalamayid, even just for Parnasa. Rav taught Rav Chananel. We had this before. This Rav Chananel, he was a sefer. So he told him halacha, that the halacha is Kaisev umayche kedarkei kedei parnasasai. That in cholamayid you can write tefillin, mezuzahs normally and sell it without a problem. And that's the halacha. V'toiveh al yereichoi tcheles. Then it said in the Mishnah that when you prepare the threads for the tzitzis, the tcheles for the tzitzis, it says by the way in Mefarshim, when it says here in the Mishnah tcheles, it's lav dafka the tcheles, even the white strings from the tzitzis as well. Today we don't have the tcheles, so the Mishnah is also talking about that. So you could spin it, you can prepare it on chalamayid, but you do it with a shinui. You do it with holding it in your thighs. Tana Rabbanan. So we learned in Abraisa, Teva Adam al yerechet cheles letzitzis. You can do it with this shinui on your yerecha on his thighs, but avaloi be'evan. But you don't do it with a stone. when you're making these threads, so you need something to like hold it down, to weigh it down, to be able to pull it. So you don't do it with a stone. Divrei Rabbi Eliezer. The Chachamim say af be'even. You could do it even with a stone, which is more of the ordinary way how this would be done. Rabbi Yehuda says in his name, be'even avoloi be'pelach. It could be done with a stone, but not with a pelach, with a spindle, which is the usual utensil that's used to spin, to make these threads. Chachamim and the Chachamim say, bein be'even, bein be'pelach. You can prepare the tzitzis in any way you want. You don't have to make any shini whatsoever. You can use a stone for it. You can use the spindle for it. Either way, you can prepare your tzitzis and chalamayid in the regular way. Amar Rav Yudah Mashmul, v'chein Amar Rav Chia bar Abba, Amar Rav Yechanan, halacha. So the halacha over here as well is also, we're makel about this. Bein be'even, bein be'pelach. You can use a stone, you can use a spindle. V'halacha, and going back to what we said before regarding the safras of writing tefillin and mezuzahs, kaisef kedarkai. You can write tefillin and mezuzahs and chalamayeh the way you usually would, and you sell it for whatever you need for your parnasa. Before we go to the next Mishnah, so the next Mishnah starts off a new section of Masechta Moed Katan, which discusses all the halachas of Avelos. So here there's a Tosfos. This Tosfos, Rabbi Yossi Omer, is a famous Tosfos. The second half of this Tosfos, he discusses the famous question whether you should put on tefillin and chalamayeh. And he brings two opinions. The first opinion, he says, just like you darshan miyamim yamima to exclude Shabbos, to exclude Yom Tif, and also there's the Gemara's drasha of Ois, that the tefillin is supposed to be a sign between Yidden and the Eibishter, and Shabbos and Yom Tif itself is a sign, so you don't need the tefillin. So Tosfos says you could say that chalamayid is also a sign. Why? Because on chalamayid you can't do work like a regular day, so it's already a sign. But then in the end, Tosfos brings another opinion that says that no, maybe chalamayid is not exactly a sign. Tosfos also points out the fact that on Chalamayid you eat, on Chalamayid Pesach, you eat only matzah. And on Chalamayid Sukkot, you have to sit in the sukkah. So maybe that itself shows in a special connection between Yidden and the Eibusher. You're doing a special mitzvah of matzah or sukkah, so you don't need a tefillin. But then in the end, as I said, Tosfos brings down and says that no, that maybe it is chayiv in tefillin. So here, this Tosfos is the source of the minhagim that there are, minig Ashkenaz. They put on tefillin and chalamayid, and the minig by all chassidim, kamat all chassidim, is not to put on tefillin and chalamayid. Okay, zok the Mishnah. Yirechai? The thighs of the person. You hold a string between your thighs, and it has to be tight in order to be able to spin it. Zok the Mishnah. Hakayver es meisai shloish yomim kaidem leregel. So a person buried a relative, and it was 3 days before Yom Tif. In other words, he already kept 3 days of Avelos. So Batlei Men Gzeiras Shiva. So now once Yom Tif comes, Yom Tif stops the whole Shiva, and he doesn't have to continue keeping Shiva after Yom Tif. That's what it says in our Mishnah. We'll see later in the Gemara, there'll be another opinion there, that even if you kept Shiva before Yom Tif for even 1 hour, for 1 moment, and then Yom Tif comes, it's Mevatel the whole Shiva afterwards. Shmaina, if the person already buried a relative 8 days before Yom Tif, so not only he kept Shiva, but besides Shiva, there's also the halacha of Shloishim. So he already kept 1 day of the Shloishim. So then, Batla Emenu Gzeira Shloishim. So now, not only the Shiva is over, but also this Yom Tif also stops the whole Gzeira of Shloishim. He doesn't have to continue keeping the halachas of Shloishim after Yom Tif. Mipnei Shamru, because the halacha was said as follows: Shabbos Oile. Shabbos is counted as one of the days of the Shiva, and the Einam Afsekes. And Shabbos does not interrupt the Shiva. You continue keeping the Shiva after Shabbos. Regalim or Yom Tif Mafsikim. The Yom Tif will actually interrupt the entire Shiva, and you don't have to continue keeping the Shiva after Yom Tif. Ve'enan Oilin. And Yom Tif itself is not going to be part of the Shiva. Okay, that's the rule. That's the difference between Shabbos and Yom Tif. What's the reason for this difference between Shabbos and Yom Tif? So some of Farshim say the reason is because on Shabbos you are supposed to keep Avelus for things that are betzina, things that are private. On Yom Tif there's no Avelus whatsoever, not even things that are private. So therefore Shabbos is a continuation of the Shiva to some extent. It doesn't interrupt the Shiva. But Yom Tif, there's no Shiva whatsoever, and it stops it, and you don't continue Shiva after Yom Tif. Other Mefarshim say that the embassy is that even on Yom Tif, you're also supposed to keep the Shiva, B'tzina, things that are private. But nevertheless, there's a difference between Shabbos and Yom Tif. Why? Because the main mitzvah of Shabbos is Einig Shabbos. The main mitzvah of Yom Tif is Simchas Shabbos. Einig of Shabbos does not interrupt the Shiva. It's not a contradiction to the morning. Whereas the Simcha of Yom Tiv, that takes away completely the Avelus, the morning of the Shiva, and therefore, even after Yom Tiv, you don't continue with the Avelus.
Shabbos,
Huh?
you have Avelus B'tzina.
It's a machlokes. It's a machlokes Rishayim. I'm not sure what we paskin today. I think we paskin today that there is a certain inyanim of Avelus in Shabbos B'tzina, no? I'm not mistaken, right? So therefore, Shabbos is counted as part of the Avelus. It doesn't completely interrupt it, because there are certain things we still do B'tzina.
So why Shabbos is a heilig, and Yom Tov is less, should be...
Okay, that's the halacha, because but Yom Tov, there's the inyan of Simcha. That inyan of Simcha you don't have in Shabbos. Ja, sagt der Mishnah weiter. Rabbi Eliezer says, Mishachar of Beis HaMikdash, from when the Beis HaMikdash was destroyed, Atzeres Shabbos. So Shavuos is like Shabbos. In other words, you have Beis HaMikdash Kayam, so Shavuos was only one day, but they would bring the Karbanis, not only on the day of Shavuos, but for 7 days. They brought the Karbanis later, right, to be Mashlam, the Yemei Tashlumin. But now, when we don't have the Karbanis, so Shavuos is just one day, and we don't have the Karbanis, so therefore it has the same halacha like Shabbos, which is that it's not going to interrupt the Shiva. Rabbi Gamliel says, Rosh Hashanah v'Yom Kippurim k'regalim. That Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, even though Rosh Hashanah is one day, and as Yisrael it's one day, or it's actually today we keep 2 days because of the Svet, whatever. Kopanim it's 2 days, and Yom Kippur is one day, and it has the halacha like a yontif that does interrupt the Shiva. The Chachamim and the Chachamim disagree, and they say loy kedivrei zeh v'loy kedivrei zeh. They disagree with both of these opinions. Ela atzeres k'regalim. Shavuos is one of the shalosh regalim. It's a Yom Tiv that will interrupt the Shiva. Rosh Hashanah v'Yom Kippurim is k'Shabbos, but Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur is like a Shabbos. Since Menatayra Rosh Hashanah is only one day, Yom Kippur is only one day, so therefore it is not going to be mafsik to Shiva. Rabbi Eliezer's opinion is that Shiva, again, that the Atzeres, that is, Shavuos, is like Shabbos, and it does not interrupt the Shiva. And Rabbi Eliezer holds Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur is also not mafsik to Shiva, because it's only one day. Yeah. But it's not, it's different than the Shalosh Regalim, though. It's only one day. It's only one day. So therefore, in that sense, it's like Shabbos. It's not, you have to have 7 days. According to Rabbi Eliezer, you have to have 7 days in order to be mafsik to Shiva. Because it's only one day, it's not mafsik to Shiva. Omar Rav, Gzeiras. So according to some girses, you go to say in the Gemara, Gzeirais or whatever, but what this is referring to is the Gzeira of Shloishim. The Gzeira of the Shloishim Batlu. If you have 1 day of the Shloishim that you kept before Yom Tiv, and then the Yom Tiv comes, it gets rid of the whole Gzeira of Shloishim. Yomim loy batlu. But the days of the Shloishim are not fully removed. What does this mean? What does it mean that the Gzeira of Shloishim is removed, but the days of Shloishim are not removed? The Gemara is going to explain this. First, the Gemara brings V'chein Omer Rav Huna Gzeiras batlu. The Gzeira of Shloishim is batlu if Yom Tiv comes and interrupts it. Yomim loy batlu. But the days of Shloishim are not totally removed. But Rav Sheisha says, Afili Yomim Nami Batlu. That once Yom Tov comes and interrupts Shloishim, it totally removes it. Completely. Now the Gemara explains, My time Yomim Loi Batlu. Regarding what are we saying that even when Yom Tov interrupts the Shloishim, but it's not, the days of Shloishim are not completely removed. So what it means is as follows. She'im Loi Gilach Erev Regel. So now when you have the 8th day, of after a person's relative passed away. So you already had 1 day of Shloishim, and now Yom Tov is coming, and Yom Tov interrupts your Shloishim, you're allowed to take a haircut already out of Yom Tov, l'kavod Yom Tov. But what's if the person did not take a haircut and out of Yom Tov? Aser legaleach acha haregel. So then he's not allowed to take a haircut after the Yom Tov, and he has to wait for the Shloishim. So in other words, really, he would have been allowed to take that haircut. Once Yom Tov comes, it's mafsik the Shloishim, and l'kavod Yom Tov he can take the haircut on Erev Yom Tov. But if he did not, so then he should wait until after the Shloishim. The Hotanya, the Gemara brings a raya for this, what it says in the Braisa, HaKoiver es meisai shloishi yomim kodim l'regel, person that buries someone, a relative, 3 days before Yom Tov, batla heimenu gzeiras shiva. This removes the gzeira of Shiva. The Shiva stops. Shmeina yomim kodim l'regel, 8 days before Yom Tov, batla heimenu gzeiras shloishim. So now you have another day, 1 day of the Shloishim, it removes the keeping of Shloishim as well. You can take a haircut before Yom Tov, l'kavod Yom Tov. Im loy gilach erev haregel, but if he did not take a haircut before Yontif, then asal legaleach achar haregel. Then he's not allowed to take a haircut even after Yontif. He has to wait until the end of the shleishim. Abba Shal says mutar legaleach achar haregel, that he is allowed to take a haircut after the Yontif, even though he did not take the haircut before. Shikashem shemitzvas shloisha mevateles, just like when you have 3 days that you kept of the shiva. So Yom Tov comes, and Yom Tov is mevatel now, the rest of the Shiva. So again, kikshem shemitzvas shloisha mevateles gzeres Shiva, just like if you kept 3 days. So now Yom Tov comes, it removes the rest of the Shiva. Kach mitzvas Shiva, so too if you kept 7 days of the Shiva, mevateles gzeres shloishim. It removes the entire shloishim. So the Gemara stops on this last point that Abba Shaul just said. What did Abba Shaul just say? That if you kept Shiva, so now you don't have to keep the shloishim either. Frek, the Gemara, Shiva, if you kept 7 days of Shiva, so now Yom Tov comes and removes the shloishim as well. But v'hanan shmeinet nan. Didn't we learn that if you have 8 days, so you had 7 days, and then 1 day of the shloishim, and then Yom Tov comes, so only if you have that 8th day, then you remove the shloishim. So why is Abba Shaul saying 7 days? So the Gemara answers, and we had this before in the Gemara, Ksavar, Abba Shaul holds miktsas hayoim kekulai, that when you have part of the day, it counts like a full day. And therefore, v'yoim shvi oilaloi lekan ulekan. The 7th day of Shiva, the first part of the day, is the completion of Shiva. The next part of the day is already the beginning of your shloishim. So therefore, already on the 7th day, you started shloishim before Yontif, and then Yontif comes and interrupts that shloishim. That's Abba Shaul's opinion. Amar Rav Chisda, Amar Rav Vina bar Shila, halacha ka Abba Shaul. We paskin like Abba Shaul that if you had Shiva before Yontif, then Yontif comes and interrupts the shloishim. Umaidim chachamim la Abba Shaul, and the chachamim that say that you have to have 8 days before, they would agree to Abba Shaul kishachal shmini shaloi liyais b'Shabbos erev haregel. That if the 8th day is on erev Yontif, and erev Yontif fell out on a Shabbos, shemuter legaleach be'erev Shabbos. So then you are allowed to take a haircut on erev Shabbos, and then it's mevatel your even the shloishim. Even the chachamim would agree when erev Shabbos, when erev Yontif that is falls out on a Shabbos. Okay, so we have here a general machlekes regarding this concept. When Shabbos is erev Yontif, yeah, that's what I meant to say. So we have here a machlekes regarding this concept of miktsas hayayim kekulai. The Chachamim do not hold to this inyan of miktsas hayayim kekulai, that we say part of the day is like the full day, and Abba Shaul does. So the Gemara says, "Kaman ozla had Amarav Amram Amarav." According to who, there's the following statement that Rav Amram said in the name of Rav Go. Ovel kivin sha'amdu menachme me'atzloi. Ovel on the 7th day, as soon as the people came to console him on that 7th day, and they got up from him, mutter b'rechitza. Already on the 7th day, you don't have to keep Shiva to the end of the 7th day. He's allowed to go and wash himself. So, Kaman, according to whose opinion is this? Abba Shaul. This is Abba Shaul's opinion. This is how we paskin today, that on the 7th day of Shiva, right after Shachris in the morning, people are menachem ovel, and then you get up from the Shiva on the 7th day. Amar Abaye halacha ka Abba Shaul b'yoyim Shiva. The halacha is like Abba Shaul regarding the 7th day, that it's only part of the day that you keep. Umaydim chachamim la Abba Shaul b'yoyim shloishim. And the chachamim would agree to Abba Shaul regarding the end of the shloishim, that on the 30th day, you don't have to keep the full day of the shloishim. We say miktzah damirina, miktzah sayem kekulai. Part of the day is like the full day. Rava said halacha ka Abba Shaul b'yoyim shloishim, that we paskin like Abba Shaul regarding the completion of the shloishim. Ve'ein halacha ka Abba Shaul b'yoyim shiva. We don't paskin like Abba Shaul regarding the completion of the shiva. You do have to keep the shiva until the end of the 7th day. Nerdoi said, halacha ka Abba Shaul bezu. We paskin like Abba Shaul that part of the day is like the full day, both regarding the end of the shiva and regarding the end of the shloishim. And here again, the Gemara brings the statement that we had before: the Amar Shmuel halacha kedivrei hamekul ba'avel. Whenever there's a machlekes regarding avelus, we always go like the lenient opinion. I mentioned yesterday that Rebbe used to quote this often, and the Rebbe said that when you mekel in avelus, it's good for the neshama. It's a kula for the neshama. So the Gemara shloishim yom minolan. What's the source of this concept that mourning has a period of 30 days? So the Gemara yalef pera minozir. We learn out from a nazir that doesn't cut his hair for 30 days. It says over here regarding avelus, rashechem al tifro, that you shouldn't let your hair grow long. So that's the source of the Avelus, that you don't cut your hair for 30 days. How do we know 30 days? Because Ksiv Hasam, it says by Nazir, Gadol Perasar Roishe, that he lets his hair grow. Malal on Shloshim Yaim, Shloshim that is, just like over there, by the Nazir it's 30 days, Afkan Shloshim. So too by Avelus, it's 30 days. For Hasam Minolan, how do we know by a Nazir that it's 30 days? Amarav Masne, Stam Nazirus Shloshim Yaim, every Nazirus is 30 days. If you don't specify how long your Nazirus is, it's 30 days. My time on Makra, because the pasuk says Kadosh Yihya. What does the word Yihya mean? Yihya begematria tlasen have. Yihya is begematria 30, so the kedusha of a nazir is 30 days. Omar Avona Bereder Rav Yeshua Hakoil Maidim. Everybody agrees. Keshachal Shlishi Shaloi Liyis Erev Regel. When the third day of Avelus comes out on Erev Yom Tiv, She'asa Berichitze Ad Erev. That you're not allowed to wash yourself l'kavod Yom Tiv until at night. So there's a few opinions about this. Some say that when it says that the third day of Avelus, it means dafka the third day, because it says, we'll see later in the Gemara, in Avelus, the first 3 days are more severe than the other days following. So dafka the third day that comes out of Yom Tiv, so Yom Tiv itself will interrupt your Avelus, but you can't take a shower until Yom Tiv. Rashi says, but when Yom Tiv comes, you are allowed to shower. There's different ways that you're allowed on Yom Tiv, whether you're using cold water or you don't wash your entire body all at once. But Tosfos over here brings another pshat in the Gemara that when it says that Chol Shlishi, so you should wait ad ha'erev, it doesn't mean that you have to wait until it's actually Yom Tiv. Ad ha'erev means that if the third day of the Avelus comes out in Erev Yom Tiv, you're not allowed to take a shower in the morning. You can take a shower later in the afternoon, closer to the night, closer to Yom Tiv. Amar Rav Nechemia Bereder Rav Yeshua, Ashkechtinu l'Rav Papi u'l'Rav Papa de Yosvi. I found Rav Papi and Rav Papa that was sitting, v'ka'amri, and they said, Halacha ki Rav Huna Bereder Rav Yeshua. That we paskin like this statement of Rav Huna Bereder Rav Yeshua, the third day of Avelus, you wait until at night. Yekedamri, others said the same thing, but just with a different version of who said it. Amar Rav Nechemia Bereder Rav Yosef, Ashkechtinu l'Rav Papi l'Rav Papa, u'l'Rav Huna Bereder Rav Yeshua, the Yosef v'ka'amri, that they all said, Hakoil Maidim, that everybody agrees, Shem Chal Shlishi Shaloi Liyis Erev Regel, that if the third day of Avelus comes out to be on Erev Yom Tiv, She'asa B'rechitze Ad Erev, that you shouldn't wash yourself until at night. Which, like I said, there's two opinions about this. Either it means wait until later in the afternoon to wash yourself, or it means that you have to actually wait until at night, until Yom Tiv, to wash yourself. Okay, we'll stop here. The next Hemshech of the Gemara continues in the next moment, so we'll stop here.